speak after I prepare well. But today somehow I was thinking this speech is to be given on the previous day of the convocation where we give out all the medals. So I was taken by surprise, but then Karthikeya was telling me, okay, just do an extempore here. You talk about the outgoing SAC, welcome the incoming SAC, and so on. It's actually, my term in the office of Dean Students has only been around like 1 year and 1 month. So in some sense, my term was entirely with this current outgoing SAC. I have been also telling to some of my friends here that many of the faculty members here, I'm not counting our councillors or anybody, but many of the faculty members here have absolutely no clue about the student life that is happening in an institution like this. Probably it's because it's very fully residential for the students, but almost nobody from the faculty stays in the campus. So I was like in the initial few months, Samuel sir will be, people on the other extreme, IIS here, they would probably know much better about how the regular student activity is there. If you faculty colleagues have been wardens, then they probably know slightly better. So, but for me, I was neither of these before. So first becoming the Dean Students was a lot of, I got to know the campus at a much larger level than I ever had. I have been here from the second year of the institute. I joined here in 2016. So if you ask me more about where the infrastructure is, how it was, even how some of the policies were formed, I was already well informed. But still, when it comes to actual student life, I really started understanding it only in the last year. And it's really a vibrant campus. You wouldn't notice that if you only come to academic talks and conferences organized. Right? Yesterday's Ethnic Day, for example. No? If you come to that, then you will know the amount of energy and vibrancy that is there in the campus. So that way, this I'm talking about Dean Students more than the SAC. I'll come to that shortly. Right? This is wonderful. But then, with this 1,300 students, I was wondering, how does this all happen? How does this all, so much of activity, the life in the campus, where is it, drawing its energy from? Surely it's drawing its energy from the whole 1,370 students that we have. But still, we need a lot of people to organize these events. Not just the mega big events like yesterday's ethnic festival or the RSD, but even small events, right? Every time this is happening. So there is a wonderful ecosystem that is here. There are close to 30 plus clubs that we have. Each clubs have its own activities. And even, being in this position, still, I don't really have to understand even how each club functions. Because all these clubs are organized under each of these councils. The secretaries who took over, like, the academic council, the cultural council, the technical council, the hostel council. These council secretaries do a tremendous job. Even starting from the budget allocation of, which happens in the very first board meetings, that will be your first job in your first meeting. They split the available student fund into these clubs. They elect their club heads, and then elect the deputy secretaries. So there is a lot of, political training, if I can call it. It's happening here. It's really wonderful. I'm kind of again going back to a faculty perspective. Unless you really look into it, you won't understand that so much of organizational activity is happening. That gives, I think, if you remember the motto of our institute, right? Nurturing young minds. This nurturing really happens at a peer-to-peer level. And here it's also it's really fantastic that the outgoing secretaries, in fact, they started passing on what they know to the prospective new students from early time. Almost half of the newly elected secretaries would have come to me before the elections to check whether the points in the manifesto is feasible or not. But all of them, the homework was already thorough because I assume they have already interacted with the previous secretaries. Right? So this is, in some sense, how do I say, it's a self-surviving ecosystem of students that we actually have. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that maybe all the secretaries, not just the current outgoing ones, starting from the very first batch, they have built up this system where the responsibility lies squarely with the student community, right? We really do not have to, from the administrative side or the faculty side, we really do not have to do that. So it's a wonderful job that all the secretaries have really set up. The role that this autonomy of within the student's body is fantastic. Now let me come in particular to the current or to the outgoing SAC members. Karthikeya, it was wonderful working with him. Right? I generally we do not expect so much of understanding of the balance of each issue. Right? From a student perspective, usually they see only one side of the issue. They don't see the remaining side. I think he has already this wonderful sense of balance. He knows how to bring in the whole council together, right? I think Karthikeya would also be known for somebody who has really closely worked with all the council members. I could talk to him with full trust because I could openly have a bouncing board with him to see what will work and what will not work. And I don't think he has brought to me any unreasonable proposal so far, right? That is like very much not my expectation, to be honest. I was thinking in my role, half the proposals will be unreasonable. But not just talk about others also. When I get the proposal, I already see that they have worked out the details of it, they have worked out the feasibility of it. So it was really wonderful working with him. Hemant, right? This academic affairs secretary, I think many of our faculty members would not probably know, is that the CDC here CDC has a coordinator, but the academic affairs secretary plays a major role in the effective running of the CDC. And this is also something which I'm intentionally saying that because otherwise it might go undernoticed. Academic affairs secretary otherwise might be visible only in the IAC kind of setting, but it's a very limited view of what the role is. And Hemant, Hemant probably among the secretaries, I think he's one of the secretaries who would have met me the least. Not the least, but still I can see that the amount of silent work that has gone from the academic secretary is fantastic. And the IAC in particular, there was so much of student participation mainly because of and even for very simple thing like arranging a a bus for people taking a GATE exam. You should see the spreadsheet that he shares with us. It's such a meticulous job. I'm sure he will really do a wonderful job in the future also. Coming back to Karthikeya, I also want to wish him all the success for his future. You don't want me to speak. Future. Revant, again, without any offense to any other secretaries, my highest appreciation is for Revant. The craft will actually tell you that all the other secretaries actually know the amount of brickbats, hate mails, hate WhatsApp messages that you get because the mess happens to be under the Hostel Affairs Council, and a lot of people even think that the mess is the entire Hostel Affairs Council, right? So I really have no words to the amount of maturity and that you need to face criticism after criticism. It's hardly anything you can do in the mess that will bring you appreciation, right? If there is only 10 hate mails in a, correct me if my counts are wrong, in a month or in a week, I think Revant will consider that a very good
exactly.
Right? So it's a job. Kaushal, I'm not threatening you. I'm just getting you prepared. This is probably the secretary job which will train you the most in terms of being a leader, because I think people like us generally thrive on flattery and felicitation and so on, right? You need that kind of congratulations and well done bro to keep going, but this is a position where you really have to keep going even when the default response is negative, right? And again, just to make sure that people don't think Hostel Affairs Council is only the mess, it is probably one of the council that does the maximum number of activities, right? When it comes to the lot of the events are, hostel events, not right, cultural events. There is within hostel sports events. There has been a lot of sports infrastructure that we have acquired during this year, including like this air hockey table, right? Lot of, and then you think about all the festivals that happen. There are separate coordinators, but that's the still all the things are coordinated through the hostel secretary. So fantastic job, and Kishore, the sweet child as everybody, I think he sometimes, pampers us. He seems to understand us more than, ourselves at times. So considerate, I don't know, I don't want to quote specific incidents. I think one very touching event that, among the many great events that he has offered, one touching event was the Teachers' Day celebration. I know the amount of effort that went into that, not just Kishore, but in getting that individual messages written for each and every faculty member. Fantastic job. And can you imagine the kind of workshops that were organized, right? I know among the student community, when I was in one of the general body meetings, there were mixed opinions. But from the faculty side, I can, the pottery workshop, the baking workshop, fantastic ideas, right? I mean, I think he really showed us what all you can do, in such a ill-defined position as the cultural and media affairs secretary, right? So cultural is a very difficult thing to define. You can take a very narrow view of it as only like dance and music, or you can take a very broad view of it, right? And surely the three secretaries, sports, technical, cultural, also has this big responsibility of leading this inter-IIT contingent, and it's also like, it's not a simple thing to organize. And again, if I say, I don't know whether I will remind you of the trauma that you went through. The cultural meet, inter-IIT meet was in Patna. I think once they landed in Patna, it was nightmares in the day. Right? To put it simply, it was nightmares. They almost, I think, the contingent got robbed or near robbed. Right? It's not a simple thing. We generally do not, I don't know whom I'm speaking to, but anyway, they all anyway know this. But these are things that the amount of organization. Yeah, Ayush also I can say. I think he would have gone through this last year. So the amount of organization that these people do. I know Indra-IIT also has a contingent leader who will also help with them, but it's like immense amount of organizational skills that these, especially these three secretaries have to take up when it comes to the Indra-IIT. Dipanshu, okay. The Dipanshu is a sports secretary who I'm not very sure is a sportsman or a dancer at heart, which is going to be true with Pawan Sai also, right? Cricket, then dance, right? Pawan Sai is very clear about his priorities. I think Dipanshu went for both the Inter-IIT sports and cultural, being sports secretary, right? And the general championship, it was not started in the previous time, it was Abhinand's time last year, and then it ran this year also fantastically well. The participations actually went up, right? And so, like, apart from the Inter-IIT, one major thing that the sports secretary also does is the general championship, and then you see all this, Sportacus, all the there are many other sport events that also happen, and every other day now you will have all these farewell matches. There is a lot of volume of work that comes to a sports secretary, and I don't know, this general championship has become a hit among the students, that I could see in the proposals of the new tech secretary and the new cultural secretary, that they are thinking of a GC for cultural events, a GC for tech events, right? So that kind of, to me, that feels like, oh, that means the sports GC was a real good success. Okay. Tirumala, our tech secretary, right? Again, thank you, Tirumala, for volunteering to take up this position. Initially Prabhat was elected, but he could not continue due to some personal reason. Tirumala joined in late, but he made up for this. I think in this whole year, he has done quite a lot of activities here. Many clubs have, many hobby groups have become clubs. The Vaidhyuti, the ESL, right? Okay, this hobby group, okay, let me not go into the detail. You cannot really start a club here, you have to start as a hobby group. For 1 year it has to function as a hobby group, and then it becomes a club and so on. So, wonderful initiative. And then the Inter-IIT Tech Meet performance, the contingent, there were 5 positions, 4, 4, 4, there was an 8 and a 5, I think, wonderful performance. By the way, I forgot to mention during Divanshu's time, this time also our Inter-IIT sports performance was outstanding, especially in athletics. We are 8th overall, right? 8th overall in athletics. So these are no mean achievements, thinking that the other IITs have 5 times our strength, even the contingents from them are much larger. Tirumala, even the last week, I think the Tech Week, there was a proposal to conduct a Tech Week. It's a wonderful idea. I hope the next technical secretary will take forward. Here also to the faculty colleagues, I have one thing to say. I only realized when I came for the Inter-IIT Tech flag off that the problems that the way the Inter-IIT competitions run, I think we can really help the students if some of the faculty members volunteer to be mentors, because the problem statements that they give are really technically challenging, and there are different category of problems, some of which you will need to prepare long and with a mentorship. This is why I should prepare, otherwise I get too long. Okay. Bhaskar. Okay, Bhaskar is our PG Affairs Secretary. This time we are having a PG farewell, right? I'm very happy that we are having no, it's not a simple thing, right? Because otherwise, our campus will become a UG focused campus. It's very important that you have come up to this. It's again been very important contribution to that. Last, Aju, right? Okay, it's very difficult to give a short description of all what Aju has done. Again, he, from the very beginning, he's somebody who worked with a list of, or a to-do list of things that can be done. There was discussions, and I think something like 80 to 90% of what Aju proposed, even though there were delays, we could get it done. And most of this has positively impacted the research culture of our institute. Right? And this was also, I know as a the research scholar, sometimes your pressure from the research is not very predictable. If you are a BTech student, when is the exam time and when is the relatively freer time. For a research scholar, it's always the exam time. So it's kind of very difficult for him to do that. But one aspect that I really witnessed during the RSD kind of events is that the big team that he brings in. I think there was some 10-12 sized Research Affairs Council, but not just the council, even much beyond that, there was a big group of research scholars, and it's very important that this research scholars come and volunteer for many of our works. Okay, so thanks to Aju last, and now for all the outgoing secretaries.
Equally to Samuel sir.
Huh?
Equally to Samuel sir.
Equally to Samuel sir, but Samuel sir is not outgoing.
No sir, he is foreign.
Oh, I think they are so much addicted to you that they want to drag you. Hello. Okay. Now to the incoming secretaries, right? I'll reserve the long speech for some other time, but I'm hoping very eagerly to work together with you. I'm sure we will have a fantastic time. We can get a lot of things done to have our community vibe going in the institute. Thank you.